So our attention this morning is on, of course, tackling insecurity, but maybe a little focus on the challenges at Yuletide in particular. Just a few days ago, we heard the story that people were attacked in traffic, in different parts of the nation. Lagos-Ibadan Expressway was no less during the lockdown of the roads when road work was continuing, endlessly. And people had one thing or the other to say about how, they were robbed, stopped, searched, frisked, and all of that. And that's not the only one. We've had this same story all over the place to the effect that people now opt for rail travel as opposed to road travel. And of course, even that, a lot of challenges with the railway corporation being overburdened, or so to speak now. Of course, there are security personnel on the train, so we hear, but how much of that do we really have, at this period? That's one of the issues that we want to look at this morning. And in helping us to take care of this conversation, just to, peel the lid off of the issues that we may have been missing out or that may have been eluding us, we have a retired Army officer, Captain Aliu, and a security expert as well. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, John.
We also have retired Lieutenant Commander John Danjuma, ex-Naval Intelligence Officer. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
This morning.
Happy to be here.
Let me start with you, Commander. Are there information eluding us as far as tackling this insecurity issues is concerned, especially given the fact that we knew December would come? December has come, and we are having these insecurity challenges, especially on the roads during travel.
Do I start with the words of Samuel Johnson or President Jeff Kennedy? Jeff Kennedy used to say that if a free society fails to provide for the many that are poor, it cannot protect the few that are rich. Or Samuel Johnson that said, the true test of civilization is a decent provision for the poor. Now, if a society has, I'm always scared when I'm driving by and I observe a large number of young men, just idling away, sitting down, and I'm wondering, what next? What are these people discussing? You would discover that if they see a fine car, they express that yearning, that desire, to be the ones, enjoying that kind of a thing. So in a situation where opportunities are constricted, are narrowed, and the hope is not there, and then when there is a motive, when there is a desire and opportunity, when they meet, a crime will occur very well. Look at the roads. If the roads are in a terrible state and you are driving, you are forced to slow down. Imagine if it is supposed to be per second, vehicles are supposed to be moving. And in a minute, you would have gathered like 60 vehicles, right? So that presents the opportunity. You just mentioned that, when the crime was being perpetrated, the response wasn't there. Why? Why should those who are supposed to protect and serve the people be so far away from such happenings? They are even supposed to prevent it from happening. Now it is happening, and it has taken so long, and there is no response. So what needs to be done is to ensure.
No, before we get there.
All right.
That's usually for some time later. But it's interesting. You've identified welfare. You've identified unemployment. You've talked about infrastructure, road infrastructure, some of the issues that actually put us where we are, makes us vulnerable to what we have seen, the insecurity we have seen so far. But let me bring in Captain Omar and try to, build on what he has started. Now, he's talked about various issues responsible for insecurity in the country, but he hasn't talked about, the security component, because when we think about insecurity, we think the solution most times is the hard part: deploy soldiers, deploy security men, gather intelligence. So how do we bring this and added to that component such that we have something robust?
Well, as the senior officer said, there is this psychosocial approach to what we call the Ember months in Nigeria. I've not had it anywhere else. Even we security men, I must confess, we do tell people the Ember months are here. Because psychosocially, we know that as the year draws down, there tends to be a pressure on the roads. People are beating deadlines. People want to make it home for Christmas and New Year and what have you. And as the senior officer said, the roads are bad. There are some of our roads where you don't even need legs to stop a car. A car that moves at 220 kilometers max, you can run after that car and stop it because the roads are so bad. Now, don't forget, crime is a business. And they too want to close the year successfully. So the Ember months are peak periods for criminals. Okay? Now, in the last 10 years on our database, I could draw across Nigeria for you what we call dark spots in the Ember months. And these dark spots increase as the roads deteriorate. So there are more and more dark spots as more and more roads deteriorate and cause go slow or vehicles to slow down. And then those who want to have a Merry Christmas and have no means of having a Merry Christmas will put 2 and 2 together. You get what you call synthesis. Bad roads, people rushing for Christmas. You join the dots. That's your opportunity if you're a criminal to also have a Merry Christmas. So what we are looking at, as the senior officer said, is actually where we must think in the grain so that we plug that little loophole. And once we plug that little loophole, you're going to see other problems just fizzle out.
By that you mean the roads, yeah?
Yes, just imagine if on the average road in Nigeria, there was no pothole. It becomes more difficult for you to rob. Our robbers are even crude. They are given to crudities. So when you see how they operate, you know that these guys are crude. But then upon their crudities, they still inflict maximum harm and confusion because the roads are bad. If the roads...
Captain,
yes.
Sorry to butt in. From the last count, we have less than 200 million kilometers of roads all over the nation.
Okay.
And one of the issues, when you talked about the state of the roads, one of the issues that some other people have said in their own data, dispensation, is, in dispensing their own data, is that we have less than 3,000 of those 200,000 kilometers of roads dualized, federal, in Nigeria. We knew as you said, Ember months would come. And we knew, just as you also said, okay, maybe I should make that a question. Are we aware at the federal or state levels that the Yuletide period, or the Ember months, as you said, is a peak period for criminals? Are we aware of that information?
I'll answer you by politely saying yes, but it's not showing. If I were in position, and I know Ember starts from September, October down to December, I'm going to actually enter the subconscious of the average road user. You have to enter him subconsciously, and then you will see certain things take shape. Even with the bad roads, there will be some amelioration in these occurrences. In fact, today is 16th. The countdown has already started. The narrow roads are going to have more vehicles than they can handle. Some vehicles are going to fall and block the roads. The better for criminals. I have had one very interesting year some time back when I had to rescue somebody from that. And they were buying a sachet of pure water for 25 naira because they were stranded on Christmas Eve on our roads. So the villagers too had to make money. It's a Merry Christmas now, isn't it, if you can sell a sachet of pure water for 25 bucks.
That ordinarily should be like 5 naira or so.
Yeah, exactly. Then it was 5 naira. But because of the sheer exigency and emergency of the situation, people got robbed, some got raped, they got ripped off. Those that could manage it and had the money will buy water for 25 bucks. And it was just crisis. They ended up spending Christmas, and some of them were there for up to like 29th of December. I was, or my own word was lucky. I had a military unit close by, so I just got in touch with a colleague and said, you know what, let's go pick that unfortunate person, let us spend Christmas with you. So what I'm saying is this. The ember months here are a recurrent decimal, but it doesn't seem we take notes, and it doesn't seem there are lessons learned. Right. We see the same things happen over and again.
Okay, now that we are faced with the ember months, I mean, just a few days to the end of the ember months.
Less than 10 days.
Less than 10 days, so we have a lot of work to do. Well, about 15 days. Actually, to the 31st.
Less than 10 to the end.
I know you're counting down to Christmas.
Christmas is the end of the year.
I understand that view. But now that we have a few days to go, obviously we have a lot of work to be done. So where should we begin to focus on? I'm talking about security agencies, and even you and I, because we have our roles to play. So where do we need to start focusing our attention on?
Yeah, you know, one of my friends sent me a video yesterday spelling out how much different state governors in the past and at present have spent their security votes. It runs in billions. Now, if it is true that the various governors are security officers of their states, none of these roads we are talking about passes or it's in the air. So I think that a positive approach would be for the CSOs and the police commissioners, and if possible to integrate other paramilitary agencies at this time, this peak period, to form a kind of protective service that could be stationary as well as mobile. Like he said, the officer said, if you check the history, there are precise areas that you have located. You are so sure that these are spots that are, in fact, you are sure that the bad boys will be there. Mm. So what is your response? These are the areas that you should target, you know, to protect the people as they pass.
Forgive me for butting in. Let me cite the example of Lagos where I live. In some 10 or thereabout years ago, I don't remember right now when the Lagos State Security Council was formed. This is exactly what I understood was done. Mapping out the black spots, the dark spots, the areas where the crime is natural to happen. You would find trucks, security posts, what do you call those tanks?
The armored tanks.
The armored tanks are always stationed there. APCs. Okay, APCs. Okay, armored personnel carriers. Aha, okay. They are stationed in those places. But you have also brought in an angle to this conversation now, that the roads, whether federal or state or local roads, are within the states.
That's correct.
What is holding the states from taking charge of, as I would say, these security personnel? From what we also understand, they get regular security reports. So what's holding them back?
You know, what amazes me is that the state governors, they yearn to be addressed as the chief security officers. For those who are positive-minded, they also carry out some, they buy some vehicles, for example. They do this and that, maybe buy communications equipment for the people. But yes, it shows that they care. But in a practical sense, what they should do at this time In fact, we are just suggesting, making the suggestion to them right now that things are no longer the same. If we desire a change, that change should come from them. They have billions of money, billions of naira, which can be rightly and positively used. You know, if they apply this money, you know, paying just stipends to, you know, these military people, paramilitary people, you know, the result will be different. Even the criminals whose business it is to go on the roads, they look for soft targets. If they know that they are going to be repulsed, they are going to be repelled, they are likely to move to other areas.
So you think even they know that there's some lapse in the system?
Definitely. It's the presence of armed men, uniformed men. It's a deterrent. You know, once, like I just said, you know, these are human beings too. You know, they have natural desires. They are also afraid. You know, they are scared when they are scared of authority. So when they see the military presence, even the numbers alone, it's a kind of deterrent, you know. And then, yes.
Okay. Captain Adio, is there any way we can assume or imagine that our security apparatus are pressured?
Yes, indeed. Our security apparatus are pressured, but sometimes the pressure is self-inflicted. If you ask...
Pressure, forgive me, is that pressure in any way capable of limiting their capacity to...
Yes, in the sense that the pressure is self-limiting and self-inflicted. Let me give you an example. Despite the amount of money that is voted, security votes-wise, despite the amount of equipments we hear being purchased, we still see challenging situations crime-wise. Why is this so? It's because there are certain fast-track, low-hanging, very effective avenues that the security agencies won't even want to begin to consider. One of it is social media. The biggest asset any security or intelligence organization can have for free is social media. Social media is information-driven. Intelligence and security operations rely heavily on information. If you do data analytics as we do, you will second-guess the mind of the multitude, social media-wise. Corporate organizations will tell you, they do data analytics so they can know what people will respond to. And that informs where they drive their markets to. No less crime there on social media. If I had my way, I wouldn't seek to ban social media. Rather, I will invest in having an absent presence on social media. From my little consults, I do have an absent presence on social media. I don't talk, but I'm there. I hear everything everyone says, but I don't respond.
And you think the government is not doing that?
No, they're seeking to stifle it and get it out of the way and maybe even put death sentence on it. It shouldn't be. It's a very big El Dorado of information for you if you know what to look for. Data analytics will help you do that.
So talking about it in the security now, the security apparatus, do you think they are aware of this information and how can they make use of it?
Well, I will tell you something about being aware and making use of it. Being aware of it is one thing. Making use of it is another. From the results we see and the indicators, it doesn't seem so. Social media gets a very antagonistic posture from our agencies, and that shouldn't be the case. I'll give you a fine example. Mavrodi Mondial, MMM, Nigerians know him as MMM. He's a criminal. But why did he choose Nigeria? He made like 2.5 billion from Nigerians in a recession. Why did he choose Nigeria? He had an absent presence on social media, and he knew exactly what was happening to Nigerians. They were despondent, they were disillusioned, there are a lot of things that were happening then. Nigerians were not comfortable, and everybody was just voicing out on social media. And he decided to give them just a little ray of hope, seemingly. And everybody went for it like lemmings. He made his money through what you call a pyramid scheme, and off he went. 2.5 billion. So what I'm trying to tell you is, for example, the Yuletide, we're counting down to the Yuletide. In my own small way at our consoles, we tend to enter the subconscious minds of our clients. I have companies that look to me to go home and come back safely in January. So what do? I don't have control over the law enforcement agencies, but I have control over the staff. So I'm going to pep your mind. The first thing I make them understand is the safest journey is the one you don't make at all.
Are you trying to say people should probably try to stay at home during this Yuletide?
Must you travel? If you must. If you mustn't, then why don't you stay at home? It's cheaper. You can have your Christmas, do a conference call, express love to your loved ones, and eat your rice right there at home.
You know, this brings up a whole
And if you
new
must, yes.
Because that alone is restriction.
It's not restriction.
A fundamental
I
breach
tell
on
you,
people's
a lot of
rights.
people no, we're not breaching your rights.
I'm just saying that this
A
security
lot of
challenge-
people, based on our own research, don't really go home because they have anything doing. They just go home because it has become traditional to go home.
Maybe that's something.
They were just born into going home for Christmas. It's not as if they were going to do anything. They even come back worse off than before they left.
I'm just wondering how sustainable this is, because there will still be that challenge of insecurity, whether people travel or not. So I'm not sure if it's safe to say people should probably stay home. Yes, people have their right, but then there's still that challenge.
Understand
we need
this.
to
There
solve.
is never absolute security. What we seek to do is to dilute it and ameliorate it and reduce it. Okay. So the first way to take pressure off the road is, first of all, to sit down and ask yourself, do I really have to travel for Christmas? I'm telling you, if you threw it out there, much as it looks restrictive, you'll be surprised at the number of people who say, really, I have not sat down one day to interrogate these journey tendencies and trends.
Okay. Anyway, you have given some people something to chew on.
Food for thought for this morning.
Okay. Exactly.
But let me come to you, Wanda. So he has touched on a particular angle. So on the one hand, people are saying that we do not have enough people in the security apparatus of the nation. But then he has brought in what he calls a cheap, fast, effective means, which is technology. In which way can the people and the government, use this to keep themselves safe this Yuletide?
I actually like how he started by saying you have to ask yourself whether the journey you are undertaking is absolutely necessary. Because at this time, it is clear that this is the peak period for the criminals too. So if you can, please stay at home. Then, if you must move with probably the established motor transport, because we are talking about roads now, motor transports organizations, that will register your name, and take your details, your particulars, in such a way that in the event anything happens, we are sure this is where you are likely to be. Then I would advise people not to go travel at night. If you can, if you must, please don't travel at night. And make your movements. You don't need to advertise your movements.
On
even
social media.
Particularly.
Okay, it's great you bring social media in eventually,
Again.
but interestingly, this is where we have to, end this conversation. I understand it's an ongoing one, and we really appreciate you sharing your thoughts.
We could go on and on. In all of these, we haven't even talked about what the federal government should do about the roads, but maybe that's a conversation for another day. We have to thank you very much, retired Captain Ali Umar, for being here, a retired Army officer and security expert.
You're welcome.
As well as retired Lieutenant Commander John Danjuma, ex-Naval Intelligence person. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.